Hi, I'm Srikant Pragada, founder, trainer of Srikant Technologies. In this video, I want to demonstrate how to get started with MySQL. Well, the first thing you need to know about it is it should be called as MySQL, not MySQL. Well, first go to mysql.com and then click on Downloads. We do have different editions of MySQL, and we are interested in not Enterprise Edition and not anything else. So we directly go to Community Edition. Well, MySQL Community Edition is free edition. So click on this. You will be taken to this page where you have to select what exactly you want to download. I want to install MySQL Community Edition on Windows. In case if you are working with a different platform, choose accordingly. So here is MySQL installer for Windows. I want to install MySQL through Windows installer, which is relatively the easiest way to do. You can also think of other options if you like. Now I click on this and it is giving me two options. It is asking me to either go for this or this. What is the difference? This is Web Community Installer. So this is MySQL installer based on web. It means you download only a small stub. This is just a small program and it will download the rest of the things from internet, from their servers. Alternatively, you can go for this where you have everything downloaded, and once you start, you don't need to download anything else from their servers. But it's up to you. You can go for either this or this, and I'm going for this. I click on this so that everything is downloaded in one go. And at this stage, it's asking you, would you like to log into your Oracle account? In case if you have Oracle account, you can log into it. And you may know MySQL is coming from Oracle Corporation. And if you don't want to log in or don't want to sign up for a free account, you can just simply say, no thanks, just start my download. So it's up to you. I do have Oracle account, but I would like to go with this option for now. No thanks, just start my download. And I want to put it in a folder. In fact, I already downloaded it, so I'm not going to download it anymore. And here it is, and this is around 446 MB. Fine. So once it is downloaded, you're ready to go. So assuming you have downloaded that, it might take a little time. Then let's go to the folder. This is the folder where I have downloaded that. Now double click on this to start the installation. Well, it's asking you, do you want to run this file? Go ahead and say yes. It's going to start the installer. It's going to give you a bunch of options. So this is MySQL installer. You have developer default. This is the default option. And it is going to install the server. You can see what are the things it is going to install. It's going to install MySQL server, then shell, router, Workbench, and a few other things like the connectors. And if you are planning to access MySQL from either Java or .NET or Python, these connectors are needed. Plus, it's also providing you a couple of other things, including the documentation. Well, you can go for this. In fact, I recommend this if you are not much familiar with what is what in MySQL, especially if you are a beginner, you can go for it. Or if you just want only the server, you don't want any connectors and Workbench, all that stuff, you can go for it. Sometimes you might be working with an installed MySQL server. You just want to connect it to that and access it, then you need to go for client only. And full is going to install everything that is available in this download. And custom gives you ultimate control. You can select exactly what you want to install. So if you go for custom, for example, click on next. it's going to ask you what are the things you want to install. You can go for MySQL server and select the version you want to install like this. And then come back, you can select the applications. Workbench is the program we use to interact with MySQL. It is graphical user interface. Shell is a command line interface. So some are comfortable with Shell and most of them are comfortable with Workbench. So you can choose which one you want to install here. Again, you need to select the version. 8.0.25 is the latest version. So you can go on selecting exactly what you want to install, even in connectors. In case you are only interested in Python connector, you select this. Or if you are interested only in Java, you go for this. You can select things very specifically. So if you want complete control on what you want to install, obviously this is the best option. Now I'm going for a developer version because that is the easiest of all. And if you are not familiar with all these details, like what is Workbench, what is MySQL shell, etc., go for developer default. Just go ahead and say next. It's going to show you what are the things it is going to install. One or two things might not be needed, so you can still go ahead with that. Or if you're comfortable, you can go back and then select custom. The choice is yours. So once you select this, click on execute, it is going to start. And it's going to take a little time because a lot of things are to be installed. So we will come back once installation is completed. Well, after some time, the installation is done. And now we are ready to proceed with configuration. So just click on next, but make sure that everything is completed and there are no errors. And it has installed the server, Workbench, shell, and a couple of connectors. Now click on next. And then it is saying the server is ready to configure. So this is what we need to configure. So just click on next. There you are. So it's asking you a few things. So the port number is 3306. You can just go ahead and select that. In fact, not much to change here unless you are very specific about some of these numbers. You can leave them as they are. I suggest you just select all the defaults and then go to the next one. And also we are saying it is the development computer. That's what it is. Go ahead, click on next. And it's asking for strong password or legacy authentication method. You can go for either of them as it is recommending this. Let's go with this. Click on next. And this is the password for root account. There is an account called root and that is admin account. So just select the password. And I'm selecting something. It's not really a very strong password. Nevertheless, it is a password. We can go ahead and you can create more accounts if you like by clicking on add user. But that's enough for me. I go ahead. And this is where we say configure MySQL server as Windows service. So it automatically starts whenever the system starts. And if you don't want that, you can turn this off. By default, MySQL is going to start whenever your system starts. Well, I'm not changing anything. These settings work for me. Go ahead, click on next. And then it is all set to proceed. And we just need to click on execute button. That's what it is showing here. You can see it says click execute to apply changes. So I'm clicking on execute. And again, it takes little time and we wait until it is done. Well, it's done and it created a database. It is starting the server and then applying security settings. All these steps were already taken successfully. So here the message, the configuration for MySQL Server 8.0.25 was successful. Done. Click on finish and we are done with the installation. You can proceed to configure other things, but we don't need to do that. For now, I'm done. I click on next and I'm going to finish this. So you can connect it to the server here, and here we have to give whatever password we have given in the previous step. So that is my password. You just click on that, connection succeeded. Go ahead, and then it is asking you to apply the configuration. We are done. Everything is successful, and samples and examples are also intact. Click on finish, and configuration is complete. And then all that you need to do is just go ahead and then finish it. But just before that, you might want to start MySQL Workbench, because this is the one we use to interact with MySQL. Or alternatively, if you're comfortable with MySQL shell, you can use that also. So I say I want to start MySQL Workbench. And even if you don't start it now, anytime later you can start it. Well, I finished the installation, and I'm asking it to start MySQL Workbench, and it started. This is MySQL Workbench, highly user-friendly environment. Once Workbench started, we are ready to go. And what we need to do is we need to create a new connection. And you might see some connections, and I want to go for a new connection. I click on this. It's asking me to provide the connection. I'm going to use the connection, and it is nothing but the simple root connection. So we can say root, and then this is the user, and then we are talking about the password, and then the default schema. Default schema is nothing but what is the database you want to use, and you can leave it and you can select it later. That's what it is saying. Okay, and you can go ahead, and then it is saying successfully made the connection, and click on OK and say OK. Now you got a new one here called root. Click on that. It's connecting to that. There you are. Now, well, I hope you understood what I did. I just went to connections, created a new connection, and in that new connection I mentioned root is the name of the connection, and the username is also root. If you have some other user, you can mention that. Now here are the schemas. Schemas are nothing but the databases, and it comes with a few default schemas. For example, world is coming with the city, country, and country language tables. You can go and check those details if you like. Or if you want to create a new database for yourself, then you need to go and select this. So this is where you have create new schema in the connected server. This is the option you have to select. So I click on this, and it's asking me what is the new schema. I say HR. That is my schema, my database. I say apply. It's actually creating a schema. Okay. Now this is what it does. So just go ahead and click on OK or apply. It's done. Now you can see there is a new schema or new database. So in this new database, I want to create a table. But instead of creating table through the wizard, we can directly go to the query, and here I close this. I'm done with that. Anytime you want to open the query window, you can ask for query window. Now all that you need to do is you just need to say file, and then you want a new query tab. Click on that. So file menu, new query tab, it's giving you a query tab. So this is where you can give commands. But before you start giving commands, you have to select what is the database you want to use. So once you execute the command use HR, on the left you can see HR is highlighted. So this is the database that is currently in use. Okay. So we created a new schema or database. From the current account, we are using this HR database. We said use HR. That is the command we have to use. in order to activate this database in the current connection. Okay, done. Now we know this is active, and I'm going to create a table. So here is the command. Well, I already created this, so I'm showing you the command. So it's saying create table employees. ID is primary key and also auto increment. So every time you insert a row, automatically an ID is generated. Full name is of 30 characters at the most, var character, and it is not null, so you must give a value. And job is another var character of 20, and salary is integer. This is the table. Now just type whatever commands you want to execute and click on this. This is to execute. And once we say execute, it is giving you the message here. It's saying create table is successful. It says 0 rows affected because we did not insert any rows. And now if you go there and refresh that, you're going to see a table here. Right click and select refresh all. There you can see the table with all the columns. Well, subsequently, you can go ahead and insert rows. And this is how we can insert a row into that. So insert into the table name followed by the columns you want to use and then the values you want to give. And for strings, we use single quotes. And this is an integer, so we directly give the value. And go ahead and run. And again, you can see here, it says 1 row affected. You can insert a couple of rows like this. And when you want to retrieve the data, you say select start from employees, and you're going to see the data. That's it. This is what you see. So this is a very user-friendly environment. So anytime if you're done with that, you can close this. Well, if you want to get back to that, if you have already any shortcut on your desktop, that's fine. Otherwise, go to your menu and then go down. You will find something like MySQL as a new group. There you are. And in that, you find Workbench. So this is what you need to set. Just click on that. It's going to take you there. So you're back to that. And you are going to use this. This is the account we want to use, right? This is the connection. So click on that. It's going to show you the same stuff. And it is showing you the table because we already created. But right now, if I go ahead and say select start from this, it says no database selected. Look at the message. No database selected. So we did not specify any database. So we need to go and say use HR, and then the database is selected. But instead of that, it's possible for you to configure your connection in such a way that it automatically uses HR as the database. So you can go to your connections and you can configure that. So manage connections in the database menu, and then go to your connection, that is root. And if you are not interested in other connections, you can get rid of them. Okay, so I'm going to root. This is our connection. And there in the default schema, I say HR. This is the default schema I want to use. So once you give that, next time onwards, we don't have to specify the schema. All is fine, and close it. So next time when you start this, it is automatically selecting HR database. So we can straight away access the tables. So this is how you get started with MySQL, how you install it, how you configure it, and how you use MySQL Workbench to connect it to either existing databases or create a new database. And if you want to use existing databases, yes, you can. For example, I can say use and then world. That is the database I want to use. Look at that. This is now in bold. And then you can say select start from country. And this is one of the tables. You can see country table. Just go run. And here is the data. And you can go down and see all that. Of course, you can maximize it and get rid of some of the things that you don't need so that you get more space at the bottom. So this is the way it is. So you have a very user-friendly environment called MySQL Workbench. But for those who are comfortable with something like MySQL shell, you can use that also. If you want, you can go here. You do find MySQL shell. But that is more like you directly giving some commands in order to manage things. This is called MySQL shell. So give it a try if you're interested. Well, that's about how to get started with MySQL. I sincerely hope it was of use to you. All the very best. Keep learning.